So today we're going to start actually hacking the Megatouch. And the way I'm going to do it is a little bit different than the way I've done it for the Force 2014. It's actually much different. I'm going to, rather than edit the binary itself and patch the binary, I'm going to replace the library that it uses to talk to the I/O board. So the Megatouch talks to the I/O board, and it talks to the key through that I/O board. And the way it does this is using something called libUSB, and it does it in user space. It doesn't use a kernel module, which is very convenient for us because we can actually see what it's doing and we can intercept the calls. The way I was going to initially do it is I was going to intercept, do something called hooking, which allows me to leave the original library in place and then just kind of intercept the specific function calls that I want to do stuff with and override, and then pass them back down to libUSB. But because libUSB is open source, I realized, it's just easier if I recompile the library and edit the code in directly. That would be great. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, how do I know that it's using libUSB? Well, I saw in the decompilation calls to libUSB. So then there's actually two versions of libUSB. There's a pre-1 version and a 1+ version. So we have to figure out what's installed. So I've already logged into the ION through SSH, and that's in this window here. That's labeled ION 2014. And I'm just going to use the commands on the system to check what software packages have been installed. So I'm going to do yum list installed. And that will give me a whole bunch of data. So I don't want all that data. I just want to do yum list installed pipe grep USB. I just want to see like USB related stuff. So you can see it actually has the old versions of libUSB, the pre-1 versions, and then it has this other one called libUSB 1. And you see this is the archive that it's from. It's from Merit's archive. It's not from the public archives. So I know libUSB 1, they've installed it here. So I'm going to go ahead and download the libUSB code. And the way you do that is you go to libusb.info and just click download latest source tarball, and I get the latest source, which is 1.023. So I already did that on the VM, so I'm just going to go ahead and now compile it. Okay. So let's switch back to our virtual machine. And the reason I am running CentOS 5.2 is because when compiling something for a system, you don't have to have the exact same system it was compiled on. You can do all kinds of different things depending on what system it is and what you have. But CentOS 5.2 is a standard distribution, and it's always easier to compile something on the exact same platform that the platform is running. So this makes our life really, really easy, because we can just literally install CentOS 5.2, install the compilers, bring over the libraries, and I can compile in this VM and then actually copy the libraries over, which is perfect. So let's do that. Now you also might wonder, hey, how do I know it was running CentOS 5.2? Because when it was booting on the terminal, when you turn it on, you actually can see it says booting CentOS 5.2. You can also do this. You can do on the system cat etc red hat release, and if it's not a Red Hat or a CentOS, or I think Fedora uses the same, I don't know, syntax, there's going to be a file named release or something like that. Look around and you can see what distribution it is. In a lot of these embedded things, they don't use a standard distribution off the shelf, but lucky for us, Merit did. So there we go. So now how do we compile it? Well, on my other machine over here, which I am going to make bigger and then make the font bigger, I'm already downloaded the code, the source code. It's in a format called a bzipped tar file. So I'm just going to unzip it and untar it. Tar is an archive format where you put a bunch of files into one, and bzip is a compression algorithm. So anyway, bzip 2 -d libUSB, that should do that for us. And then we have a tar file. We're just going to do tar xf, which will untar it. And now I have a directory called libUSB 1.0.23. So I'm going to go libUSB 1.0.23 Do ls, and what I have here is standard auto configure type. Auto configure is a build system kind of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do configure, and I do prefix equals user local, because I want to store it in a directory called user local, not with the rest of the system, just to be clean. So that's going to do some stuff, and then it's going to say, oh, udev support requested, but lib udev header not installed. I don't even think I need that for the Megatouch, so I'm just going to tell it not to configure with lib udev. Let's do configure disable. I'm sorry, prefix equals user local, disable udev. Now that should work, and it's done configuring. That's just setting everything up, and then all we do is do make, and it shouldn't take too long to build this, and it's done. Now what I'll have here, if I do a sudo make install, nope, I don't have sudo on the system, so I just got to go to root. And libusb, I can do make install. Okay. Now it should be in user local, see lib, and there should be some libraries, and there they are. So I want to copy this over to the Megatouch and just make sure it works as is, right? Before I do anything at all, I'm going to actually just replace the underlying library. Let us go and do that. Screen, there we go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. This is the original system. We're on the ION itself. The files are going to be stored in user lib, and I'm going to do ls myself lib usb 1 star. That's all I care about. So I have a file here. This is just a link pointing to the specific version of the file. So I'm just going to copy my new file over. I'm going to leave this file. This is the actual real file, and this is just like a shortcut to it. I'm going to leave this file here. I'm going to copy my new file over, and then I'm going to point this at the new file. So back to this original machine, or the virtual machine. Here's my file that I want to copy over, right here. So I'm going to do scp, oops, cp libusb there to root at 10.10.1.14 user lib, and if I just do it ls again, you see I have that new file. Now I'm going to remove that link and point it to here. So rm, we have to make sure the system, I actually did that. When you do this, you have to make sure the root file system is mounted to read write, because on the ION, it's actually, you can't write to it. So I've shown you this in other episodes, but it's mount -o remount rw /, then you can copy things. So now I'm just going to remove this link, and then I'm going to ln-s, which makes a shortcut, and I'm going to just make that point to the new file instead. And now it is pointing to my new file. And one thing we can do, I just want to see that it's going to take that. I can do ldd user local bin start. Oops, and I want to do pipe grep lib usb. Okay, all right. So it's going to that file. Great. It's going to grab this file, which is a link to my old file. LDD just shows you what libraries things are wanting and which versions they're going to actually use when you run it. Okay, so you see it uses a lot of libraries. And this is going to be nice when we do this, because we will not actually have to patch the binary. All we have to do is actually replace, once we're all done with this, replace that user lib usb file, and the system will be patched. And I will never actually edit the binary. Anyway, so let's reboot this thing and make sure it's actually working with the new file. Okay, I'm rebooting the ION remotely, and I'm going to test to make sure it actually boots. So here we have my ION system, and it's booting. Now I actually have it stopping at run level 3. Or do I? I can't remember anymore. Maybe I don't. We'll find out in a second. I think I do. Yeah, it's stopping at run level 3, so I will actually have to manually do a command to actually get it to continue. Actually boot in the Megatouch software. So I'm going to log in as root. ABC 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to do init 5, which tells it to go into the actual stage, or what's called the run level, that Megatouch initially had it run into before I stopped it from booting all the way into the game. So I could actually get into the system and change things around. So it's now continuing the startup where it's looking for the devices. And in a second, it should work. Now if my libUSB swap didn't work for whatever reason, then it should crash and it should not boot up. Not crash, should boot up. The game should not boot up correctly. It should give me some errors. It looks like it's booting up. And I do have a real 2014 key in there. I bought one 2 years ago, right before AMI was selling off all their stuff from the Megatouch series. It's got a couple motherboards, a couple I/O boards, I think, and I bought a licensed Megatouch 2014 software pack, I think they call it, which comes with a key in the actual installation CD. So I do have a legal Megatouch copy here of 2014. I don't do illegal things. That would be bad. Alright, so it's booted. Great. So if you're following along and want to try this yourself, you should probably do the steps I did. Go ahead and download that software and recompile the library and copy it over to your Megatouch. Don't forget to back up, or don't delete your original Megatouch libUSB files in case you mess something up.